Okay, all right. Shalom, shalom. We are having our 7 day of Unleavened Bread, our convocation. I have a short message for today. I don't know for sure or not. We'll see it today. I mean for it to be short. We are going to be, let's stop doing that. We are going to be dealing with Feast of Unleavened Bread, of course. It's coming to a close. And we want to deal with, we're going to be talking about is growing to maturity. Growing to maturity. It's relevant to the times when we look and see and understand how Feast of Unleavened Bread is connected to Shavuot. And when we think about these things and how they, one kind of leads in to the other, the thing that, at least, as I was looking at it this year, it just caused me to think of the idea of growing to maturity. Okay, so that's what we're going to deal with. We're going to go into the scriptures. We want to begin. I'll pull it up over here. We want to begin and look at Leviticus chapter 23. Chapter 23. And we'll read from verse 4. Verse 4 down to verse 8. Here, let me just pull it up real quick. Let's see here. Leviticus chapter 23. Okay, and you can just go ahead and begin reading at verse 4.
These are the appointed times of Yahweh, set apart gatherings which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. In the first new moon, on the 14th day of the new moon, between the evening, is the Pesach to Yahweh. And on the 15th day of this new moon is the festival of Mitzvot to Yahweh. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. On the first day you have a set apart gathering. You do no servile work. And you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh for 7 days. On the 7th day is a set apart gathering. You do no servile work.
Okay, very good. So we see over here the commandment to gather, have a holy convocation, a set apart gathering on the 7th day. That's right now. Okay, and so we want to come together. We want to talk about and deal with all of the things that we that the Feast of Unleavened Bread brings about in our minds and understanding. We talked about as it began the idea of not only to, as we go into the Feast of Unleavened Bread, we get the leaven out, but we also talked about the idea of keeping the leaven out and all the things that that are included in doing that. But as we move forward with the Feast of Unleavened Bread, as this evening is coming to a close, we think about what is to come and what it is that the Feast of Unleavened Bread actually leads us into. So we want to go ahead and look at we want to go ahead and read, let's see. we want to continue reading on. Let's see how far we want to go. We just want to go down to 14. Let's read 9 through 14.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, When you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest, and you shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh for your acceptance. On the morrow, after the Shabbat, the priest waves it. And on the day when you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare a male lamb, a year old, a perfect one, and an ascending offering to Yahweh. And it is a grain offering. 2/10 of the ephah, fine flour mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to Yahweh, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offering, 1/4 hin of wine. And you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering to your Elohim, a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
Okay, very good. So we see over here the commands for the first fruits offering, which also, by the way, is the beginning of the count to Shavuot. It's the beginning of the counting of the Omer over here. And so we begin to count the morrow after the Sabbath that is in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So that actually is the morrow after the Sabbath is actually right now. And so when we look over here, and it says, and you shall reap its harvest, and bring in the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest. We understand that to be a barley, the barley harvest. The word harvest is used, but when we think about harvest, you think about the end of the growing season, right? When you reap all of the things that you've sown. But in actuality, when we think about the first fruits harvest, I'll put finger quotes around harvest there. It's not actually the harvest time for the barley. The barley is still kind of in its beginning stages, but you're dealing with this first fruits. And so what we kind of want to talk about is this idea of the first fruits, seeing how, this kind of is the feast of first fruits, even though it's the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. These things are happening simultaneously. And so when we think about barley, this harvest over here that it's referring to is the barley harvest. And so it's not just a random crop that it's talking about. You wouldn't just go and just get whatever you felt you was ready to give to the Most High as this wave sheaf offering. You actually specifically would go and get the barley. By the way, barley is something that grows in the first month of the year, right? The first month of the year is literally called green ears of barley, or a beet, right? And so this is kind of the stage, which the barley is in. And so you would take those first fruits and you would wave these first fruits before the Most High. And so this wave offering, this heave offering, this thing, when you took this thing and you kind of waved your hands in the air. Yeah, just kind of like you just don't even care. Yeah, you do care. You will wave the wave sheaf offering unto the Most High. But again, it will be these first fruits of your harvest. And so, the barley, when we think about the barley really is, it was something really that they used for kind of what the animals fed on, right? Was the barley. You would feed barley to your cattle, to your animals. And so when we think about barley and what it represents, it kind of causes us to think about kind of our animalistic self, right? Our animal self. I remember, I used to talk to this group of fellows, and one of them in particular didn't like the idea of, he was a human being, like he wasn't an animal. But when you look at the word that is translated as soul, or the scriptures version translates it as being, that word nephesh literally means your animal self, right? Your carnal self, the part of you that functions on instinct, right? Animals, they're instinctual. They do things where, well, I don't want to say that they only do things, because when you sit up there and watch these animals, you're able to find that they're actually highly intelligent. If what they do really is only instinct, then instinct is it's quite amazing, actually. But the idea of instinct is, you have a want, a need, a desire, and there's an action that's quickly associated with that thing. And when we think about our carnal mind, where it takes us to a place where we get in trouble, we have these desires, and then we have these actions that become attached to our desires, and we never thought about like the consequences of these actions, right? And so when we think about barley, what it represents, when we think about this idea of, bringing this first fruits of the barley, waving it before the Most High, and how all these things come together, it caused me to think about the idea of the refinement of our animal soul, right? The refinement of our being, right? The refinement of our carnal mind, right? And so when we think about how, with the feast of first fruits, the day of first fruits that goes into Shavuot, where we deal with Shavuot, where it deals with refined wheat, where it's already been refined, because we have this bread, right? You take this raw ingredient, and you've not only taken the raw ingredient, but you've transformed it into something totally new. That's Shavuot. But over here, we're dealing with the beginning process of dealing with this not even all the way ripe ingredient that we're taking, and when we wave it, we're thanking the Most High for what we can see will happen, right? These first fruits that we're taking, we're seeing the first fruits begin to grow, and we know if everything goes the way it's supposed to, we're going to have a wonderful crop down the road. But not right now. Right now, all we have is just this potential, right? But we're praising the Most High for the potential with this first fruits. That's what we deal with this first fruits. We're praising the Most High for what we know that he hasn't even done it yet, right? The whole thing could be a flop. I looked out there. Listen. I want to be a husbandman so bad, in terms of being a vine dresser, right? But I'm kind of terrible at it, right? My vines, they get diseases. My garden won't grow right. right? But when the things begin to grow, you got so much hope.
Yeah.
You look at this first things when it begins to come out, and you're like, yes, this is going to be wonderful. But you don't know what's going to happen from the time it comes out of the ground, by the time you get these first fruits that come out, and when it actually gets to the harvest time. But when we deal with this idea over here with these first fruits of the harvest and the priest waving it before the Most High, you're doing kind of a preemptive strike. You're praising the Most High for something that He hasn't done yet, but you're hoping and believing, that He's going to bring this thing to its total fulfillment. And so, what we want to deal with a little bit is the idea of getting to know the Most High, right? Because if we want to talk about refining our animal souls, if we want to deal with the idea of causing, getting our carnal minds in check, if we want to talk about the idea of growing to maturity, we got to know what the Most High, what He wants. We got to know what He likes. If we look over at Galatians chapter 3. Galatians chapter 3 and 24 and 25.
Therefore, the Torah became our trainer unto Messiah in order to be declared right by belief. And after belief has come, we are no longer under a trainer.
Okay, very good. So, Paul a lot of times talks about this transition that takes place in terms of going from being under the law to being under grace, to going from being under the old covenant to being under the new covenant. When we look over here, this verse over here, therefore the Torah became our trainer or our schoolmaster unto Messiah in order to be declared right by belief. That's interesting, because if he's talking to these people who are no longer under the law, no longer under the old covenant, no longer subject to the to whatever they will be subject to over here, this verse over here, when we look at this thing, the Torah is involved in it. And so even if we say that you get to a place where you was to move beyond a thing, you got to first be engrossed in the thing first. You have to have a particular relationship with the Torah first before you get to the place of it no longer being your schoolmaster. Right? It's not just a thing that just happens. Oh, I believe in Yeshua, so I believe in Yeshua, so now the law is no longer my schoolmaster. That's not what we see over here. It said, therefore the Torah became your schoolmaster. How so? It taught you.
It taught you.
The Torah taught you what to do. The Torah taught you what the Most High liked and what He didn't like. If you want to say that you want to come into this way of living, this way of life, and you have no idea what the parameters are, you're going to be lost over here. Right? You don't know what the Most High likes and what He doesn't like. This over here is about getting to know who the Most High is. You got to know who he is. You got to know what he likes. You got to know where his borders are, where his parameters lie, so that you don't overstep. And as you begin to know him, as you begin to grow in the knowledge of him, then the spirit now begins to take over.
Yep.
Right? And so you go from a place where I sit up here and I mean, these things work outside of the Bible. I am a what's the middle range? A novice is a beginner.
Yeah.
I'm not a novice on the bass. I'm not a novice, but I'm not an expert.
Intermediate?
I'm intermediate, I would say. I'm kind of at the high end of intermediate, I would say.
Adept.
I like that. I like that.
Adept.
I like that.
Intermediate.
And so when you begin to play music, right? It's very mechanical. You know, the notes are here. It goes right there. I look at the thing. You have to think about where your fingers go. The bass is something where you're moving you're strumming the fingers and you're moving your other fingers over here simultaneously. You're doing all of this thing. There's a lot of thinking involved. This song's about to go to the next thing. I got to go over here and all of these things. There's a lot of thought involved when you're learning. But when you get to the place where you've learned it already, you don't think about it anymore. Right. It's just automatic. You sit down and the music just comes out.
It becomes like a part of you.
It's a part of you.
It's a part of you.
Yes, but you had to go through the learning
Right.
process first.
Right.
It's not just automatic. You had to put something inside first for it's your spirit
Right.
to draw from. And
Right.
then once it's there, then now you just go. And there's no longer a thought. You just feel it. And so when you think about it, it's the same way. It's not like this Bible is not like this thing that's like this. It's another thing, but other things work in the same way. You go to school and you learn. And once you've learned that thing, once you become an expert in that thing, then now you don't think about it anymore.
Right.
And so we have inside of us the Ruach HaKodesh, which draws from the things that you put inside, and it causes you to do those things. Right? It goes from the old level to the new level. Right? The old level was, there's the law, those are the things. Now the new level is, there's the law, but now I'm going to help you and show you and lead you and guide you in doing those things and strengthen you in doing it. I'm going to cause you to naturally do that which you wouldn't naturally do. Okay, that's what the Ruach HaKodesh does inside of you. And so again, when we think about this idea, what Paul's talking about over here, this idea of the schoolmaster, you got to know the Most High. That's the first thing he wants for you to do, is know who he is when he sit up there and say, I am Yahweh. I'm the one who brought you out of Egypt from the house of bondage. That's me. Don't have no other gods before me. Then he started telling you what he wants after he told you who he was first. And so, the Proverbs talk about the fact that the beginning of fear of the Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. It's the beginning of wisdom. We can't fear a thing that we can't rightly fear anything that we don't really know the fear that he's talking about. We can't rightly fear without knowledge. That knowledge got to be there. We have to, because if the knowledge ain't there, we're not going to fear him. We're going to do whatever we want to do because we don't really We don't know him like that. You don't know what he capable. When you don't know what somebody capable of, you treat them any kind of way, don't you?
Right.
You don't know what they capable.
You don't know what they capable of. You treat them any kind of way.
Right.
But when you know what somebody capable of,
Don't do it.
you deal with them a little different.
Ain't that the truth?
Tread sloppily.
and so how much more so when we think about the Most High, right? People sit up here and they do all of this thing and get into all of this folly because they don't really know what's ahead of them. Mm-hmm. They don't really know the Most High. They don't really fear the Most High. They never had a schoolmaster that brought them unto Messiah. Mm-hmm. If you don't really understand why you need Messiah, you can't really go to him properly. Unless you understand that you're in the middle of this ocean with no life preserver and nobody in sight to pull you out of there, you're not moving towards Messiah correctly. If this is about some type of some knowledge or some type of enlightenment or some transcendent thing that you want to get into, that's not what Messiah is here for. Messiah is to snatch you up from out of the middle of a raging ocean, and there's no way for you to escape your imminent death. You're about to die, and here comes Messiah. If you're not approaching him in that way, you don't know him. You don't understand the law. You don't understand the law as a schoolmaster that lead. You don't understand how despicable and wicked you really are, and how much you need Messiah. If you're not thinking about him in that way as your life preserver, the only one who's able to reach down and grab you out of the raging, roaring. You ever see that movie with who was in that movie? They was in that boat, and there was these big old waves that kept on coming, and it was like in the middle of the ice, water, and the boat. I think they died at the end. I think. Not Titanic. There was like waves. There was just a
like
little
that big giant wave coming up.
wave. It just was turning the boat over and everything
like
else.
this.
It was like the biggest wave I ever seen. In the middle of the frozen ocean. They was like in the frozen
They were still trying to
ocean.
get through it.
They didn't have no radio, no outside contact. They had this little boat in the middle of this cold ocean. Nobody to save them. I'm saying if you don't think that that's where you are from a spiritual perspective and understand that Yeshua is the only one who's able to come and get you out of that boat, you ain't even in the boat. You're out of the boat in the ocean.
You ain't got a boat.
You ain't got a boat. You ain't got no nothing. You got some heavy boots on that's pulling you down in the water. You in the ocean. You're freezing to death. And there's waves that are coming, crashing down on you. And the only way you get out is if you take the master's hand. If it's not an imminent thing with you know the way that you come into this thing, then you're not coming into it right. Because it ain't just about. Otherwise, it's just like it's scholastic. Right. You just this is some interesting. It's theoretical. This is some interesting. Philosophical things that I'm getting into. This is just no, he's saving you from death is what he's doing. Right? And there's no other way that you could be saved from death lest he reach over there and grab you up. But the law teaches you that. The law teaches you how wicked you are and how if you just live your regular life and don't know what the Most High likes, then you gonna do something that you don't like because you don't know what he likes. Right. And you need that law to be that schoolmaster to bring us unto Messiah that we might be justified by faith in him. We got to know who he is. Okay, and so the first fruits, right? The first fruits, when we think about these first fruits again, the first fruits is this beginning manifestation of the presence of life. Right? The thing starts to grow up and you know that the seed has been it comes out of the ground and leaves start to grow. Maybe no fruit is there, but you know that this thing has begun to grow. And so when we think about first fruits, when we think about this idea of growing to maturity, the idea of transforming our carnal minds, our animal souls, we're able to do this, and we know that this is something that will come to pass because of the fact that Yeshua did it first. Let's go over here let's get back to the scriptures over here. Yeshua did it first. So let's go over to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 15, and begin reading at verse 14. And go down to 20.
And if the Messiah has not been raised, that our proclaiming is empty, and your belief is also empty. And we are also found false witnesses of Elohim, because we have witnessed Elohim that he raised up Messiah, whom he did not raise up. If then the dead are not raised. For if the dead are not raised, then neither Messiah has been raised. And if Messiah has not been raised, your belief is to no purpose. You are still in your sins. Then also, those who have fallen asleep in Messiah have perished. If in this life only we have expectation in Messiah, we are of all men the most wretched. But now Messiah has been raised from the dead and has become the first fruit of those having fallen asleep.
Okay, very good. So we see over here that it's very important. It's very important that we have a one who is Messiah, who died and raised from the dead. Because it says over here, if he didn't, then all this is for nothing, right? Your belief is empty. Your faith is null and void. It don't mean anything if he wasn't raised. But if he is raised, right? We know now, but now Messiah has actually been raised from the dead and has become the first fruit of those fallen asleep. Okay, so again, we talk about this idea of a first fruit. With the first fruits, there's more to come. Right? It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of something that's coming that's more.
First one to be raised like that.
Okay, so we have to think about what the more part, the part that's more, right? Because he was the first fruits of those having fallen asleep. But when we think about what the Spirit does inside of us, it puts us in the same position to be resurrected just as he was resurrected unto life. Okay? And so when we think about the idea of the Spirit inside of us, let's look over here at 2 Corinthians. Because this idea of the first fruits is a powerful idea because it's just the beginning. Right? It's just the beginning. It's not a full harvest. 2 Corinthians 1 and 22. What's that say?
Who also...
What? Hold on a second. My fault. 3:21 and 22.
But he who establishes us with you in Messiah and has anointed us in Elohim, who also sealed us and gave the Spirit in our hearts as a pledge.
Okay, very good. Verse, let me see. Let me put this on here. Let's see here. He said that says sealed us in the Spirit and give us the earnest of the Spirit in our hearts. That right there is a pledge. Part of the purchase money or property given in advance as security for the rest. It's a down payment. The Spirit inside of you is a down payment. It's just the first fruits. It's just the fact that I give you this right here. And if you do right with this pledge that I put in your hearts, it's gonna grow. And it's gonna turn into something that's beautiful. Right? But we see over here that it is a down payment. Right? He putting the money on some crypto that's about to blow. But it didn't blow yet. But it's about to blow. Right? It's a part of the purchase money. Right? That's what it is. We see the same thing over here. We see the same thing if we look at Ephesians. This wasn't just a one-time thing that Paul did that he said. He thought about this idea a few times over here to describe what it is that the Spirit does inside of us. Ephesians 1:14. What's that say?
It says, who is the pledge of our inheritance?
I'm sorry. Start at, let's go up. Let's see. Just start at the verse before 13.
It says, in whom you also, having heard the word of truth, the good news of your deliverance, in whom also, having believed, you were sealed with the set-apart Spirit of promise, who is the pledge of our inheritance unto the redemption of the purchased possession, to praise to the praise of his esteem.
Okay, very good. So that right there, that version says, "Who is the pledge of our inheritance?" This King James said, "Which is the earnest of our inheritance," which again is that same word, that down payment, that our harabon, which by the way is a transliterated word. It's not even a Greek word, right? That word is just a Greek transliteration of this word here. Let's see, harabon. Okay, so he's giving you this. He's giving you this idea that it can't even be reproduced in the Greek, right? He couldn't even think of a Greek thought that brings about the same thing. So it's just transliterated over here. So this word over here, same thing. It's a sense of an exchange, a pawn, a security, a pledge. But it's talking about the Spirit, though, right? It's putting this thing inside of you with the potential to grow. This word here is actually from the same word that the root of this word is the same as the root for erev. You think about the mixture, the mixture of darkness and light, right? The word that means to braid or to intermix. So he puts this intermixture of the ruach, his own presence inside of you, where it intermixes with your spirit, right, and transforms your spirit into something that's new and connected to the Most High. But again, this is this seed of the Spirit, this earnest of the Spirit, this thing that he puts inside of you, that there is a potential a potential to grow. Okay? And so, with that in mind, let's go over to Matthew. Because we got this potential to grow inside of us. We got the first fruits of the Spirit inside of us. But that thing got to grow. Because you could just end up being just like how I am with these plants out here. And the thing just die inside of you. Right, just because you got the Spirit inside of you, it don't mean that you gonna maximize the potential that the Spirit brings. What was Matthew 5:48 say?
Therefore, be perfect as your Father in the heavens is perfect.
He said, Yeshua said, King James got that in some red letters. That's what Yeshua said. Therefore, be perfect as your Father in the heavens is perfect. That word over there, teleos, complete. It means complete. Applications of labor, growth, mental or moral character, completeness of full age, man or perfect. So when we think about Matthew 5:48, where he's talking about perfection, he's talking about completeness. He's talking about maturity. He's talking about being full grown. Okay, so in order for us to get to the place of being full grown in the Spirit, we have to allow the Spirit to grow inside of us. We have to allow the Spirit to actually do what it was placed inside of us to do. Not quench it, but nourish it. Right? We have to have this beautiful combination of understanding the Most High from a mental perspective and allowing for our spirit to take our mind and transform our mind, right? By the Spirit. Okay, but Yeshua is saying over here, be perfect. But when he says that, he could have just said, walk in the Spirit. He could have just said, be spiritual. Because the way that we walk in completeness, the way we walk as full grown, the way that we walk in perfection is to allow the Spirit to work inside of us. That's how we realize our potential. That's how we go from being at this place of waving our first fruits before the Most High to waving a full grown crop to him, before him. Right? It's a bust. It's a bust. It's a total bust if the thing that he started dies. Right? You didn't get to the place where you want to be at if all you got is this partially ripened thing. That's not the point. The point is not to be this partially ripened thing. The point is to be this thing that's of full age, that's complete. And the way that we become that is to allow the Spirit inside of us to work. We're not even going to talk about this that long. I'm going to go over here to 1 Corinthians 14 and 20 over here. 1 Corinthians. For some reason, I don't remember seeing this verse before. That's crazy. This verse right here. When I seen this, I was like, what in the world? It sounds like some Proverbs or something. This verse right here. I like this one.
Oh yeah, that sounds a good verse.
1 Corinthians 14. Hold on. First Corinthians 14. Oh, 20. My fault. 14. I'm on 40. I'm supposed to be on 20. This one right here.
Yeah, brothers, do not be children in your thinking, but in evil be babes, and in your thinking be perfect.
That's our word over there. Perfect, be full grown. He said, don't be children in your thinking. Don't be that first fruits that you just was just right there. In that stage of growth where you just began to grow. And you think it don't be that. He said, you think it be perfect, be mature, be full grown in your thinking. But in evil though,
Right.
be a baby in that. He said be a baby in evil.
Right. Right.
Don't be full grown in that. I don't know why I never seen this before. I like this one right here, boy.
Yeah.
He said in evil though, be a baby in that.
Right.
You'd be a baby in that.
Be a baby in that. But in your thinking, he said, be perfect. Don't be children in your thinking. And so that's about growth and maturity and moving from point A to point B to C all the way to Z. Growing up. That's moving beyond the areas of adolescence in your thinking. Okay? He said be full grown. He didn't even say grow up. He said be full grown. He didn't even talk about the process. We know it's a process. But he said, look, you be perfect in your thinking. But when he talked about the idea of being perfect in your thinking, you know, we can imply, the process could be implied. It got to be a process. You got to go from the first level to the second level to the third level and keep on going. If you're not growing, you're dead. Simple as that. these greens out here was growing in the wintertime.
Yeah,
I never
they
pulled
were.
them out. I never pulled the greens out, and they kept on growing. They found a way to grow. Them greens did.
They say they fuck.
Them things is they look like they ready to eat right now.
Yeah, they do.
And they lasted through the winter because they want to grow. They want to strive. They want to be alive. The other stuff, the tomatoes and all that stuff, they couldn't hack it. They died.
So they gave up.
They wasn't strong. But them hardy things, them greens, them kale and them collards,
Yeah, I saw 'em.
we ain't done. You gonna pull us out the dirt, we gonna keep on going.
Keep driving.
And so how much more so? I know it snowed,
Yeah. I was
everything,
there.
frozen.
Hey, it endured to the end. And it ain't even in.
It ain't even the end.
It's enduring.
And so I'm saying how much more so when we have the earnest of the Spirit inside of us, do we just have a wantedness to grow and become full grown and not be children in our thinking. But he took it to a step below children. He said, for evil, be babes. Don't even be children in evil. He said, be a baby in evil.
Be below a novice.
Right? But I'm saying that we have to have a thing about us where we want to grow. Because you don't got to tell the collard greens to want to grow. Collard greens love to grow.
What about those perennial flowers you keep digging out? You can't dig
Oh my goodness. Them perennial flowers in there love to grow. I took them things. I take them out every time I dig up my garden. Them people that live here before me put these flowers that grow every year. They start just a little bulb in there. That thing loves life. It loves to live. It don't want to die It don't want to die. Go ahead.
Mint?
it like
You can't get rid of mint.
Mint sticks around. Y'all need me.
Well,
Mint.
they
I ain't going nowhere.
take over.
Mint wants to live.
Every
Mint
year they
wants to
come.
But we sit up here, we want to be dead.
You know what the special thing that I look at about that, Ray, is the scriptures like let me see. So like it's Psalms 19 somewhere or Romans 8, 12 to 25, Isaiah 65. Where it talks about nature. In a nutshell, we can learn a lot from nature.
Yeah.
Nature shows us how it be.
Yeah.
You remember when the bees was on in the back of that car? The queen bee was trapped in the back of that car, and all those bees was on the window. You can learn a lot from that. That's unitized. That's unifying. They was relentless on about defending that queen and helping her rescue that queen. The lady was so scared for 2 days, they didn't let the bee out and they left.
Yeah.
Look at your plans. They were enduring through hard times, hard pressed. And we're told that this narrow road is hard pressed and only few finds it.
And so what we got to pay attention to is the fact that we must be, as Yeshua said, perfect, which is growing to maturity, not being stagnant, not being allowing for our thinking to be as children, but for our thinking to be perfect, for that first fruits, that earnest of the Spirit that He put inside of us to not just sit over there and just be the same way that He gave. When He talks about the talents, that the master came and brought the talents and gave them to the people, He chastised the ones that just sat there and didn't do nothing with it. You just buried the thing I gave you. These other people sat up here and they bringing me back 20 and 30 and 60 and 100-fold. And all you did was just put it under your mattress. You ain't even put it in the thing where it could get some interest. You could have put it in a little interest bearing situation over here. But you stuck it under your mattress and it ain't did nothing. You giving it back to me the same way I gave it to you.
Yep. It's stuck in your computer. It's stuck on your notepad. It's stuck in your mind.
Yeah. These things that He given to you that He expect for you to multiply. And so He wants for us to grow, not stay the same, not be doing the same thing we've been doing since the first time He put the earnest of the Spirit inside of us. So let's keep on going, because I don't even want to talk about this that long. Hey, Proverbs. Let's go over to Proverbs 9. Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 9.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
I know you're trying to go through it.
Go ahead. I'm only half serious.
Okay. Because when I think of calling someone out, or not calling someone out, but just acknowledging that someone is acting childish or have a childlike mind, how does one know? You know what I mean?
You talking about the you or the other person?
The other person. Because that person technically, they're a child. It's like I feel like when I'm talking to my own child, they don't know that they're a child.
Yeah.
But as I talk to my older children, I'm able to have them reflect and see why that person, you see how your younger sibling is impatient? Mm-hmm. You were once like that too, but now you can see, like, oh, they're not patient. So I'm just saying,
I know what you mean. And so when we talked about we talked about the idea of the law and the schoolmaster. Right? We have to be, when we become acquainted with the ways of the Most High, I mean really acquainted with, and knowing what He wants and what He don't want. When we really become acquainted, we could say that we're acquainted, but when we really become acquainted, then that's when you're able to see. And so that person, you could tell them that, but if they're not acquainted, they won't see. They won't know until there's more instruction involved. You guys sit up here and say, well, you got to break it down. You're acting this way. That's how little kids behave like you're a big kid. You know what I mean? You're doing the things that the little kids do. You have to have that conversation and know, but when you're doing that, you're causing them to know. And so what we're saying that the law does is causes you to know the Most High.
Okay.
And so when you are acquainted with them, right, and then now you're able to, you guess you're right. When you know. But if you don't know, you don't know. And so the same thing is true when we think about like mainstream Christianity. When we see that verse, that's Galatians. That's their book right there. Galatians is their book. And so they want to have a relationship with Messiah. But how you have a relationship with him when one of your favorite books told you that the law leads you to Messiah?
Come on.
You gotta get trained first.
You rejecting the training, talking about, I'm gonna skip that step. I'm going straight.
That don't work.
Straight to college.
That don't work. You got to go through the elementary school. Which one's primary school? Which one is that?
Get started.
Whatever. High school, all that. Junior high, middle, whatever. All that. You got to do that first.
You know,
Then you go over to the thing.
I always said that to many people. You know that Galatians is one of the most misunderstood books for Christians. But however, like in this walk, the spiritual development, scriptural understanding is just like that. It's the education system. I say the Most High doesn't want none of us to remain in spiritual kindergarten. You know, but we must treat it as though it's the same concept of learning. First grade, second grade, third grade. I tell people, get in the lane. You know, first grader will never understand or comprehend the teachings of university studies. You know, you got to drink your milk. The problem is there's a lot of people, and I'm not going to just go out and say this person, a lot of people in a lot of assemblies, camps, whatever. Most people, thank you. What they do is they'll take these young cubs, force food down their mouth. They left their drink of milk on the table and then go put them in another room and say, run this, run that. You're a captain, you're a lieutenant, run this. And they don't even have the fundamentals because they never finished drinking their milk. That's the problem today in Israel.
Yeah. And so when we think about this in light of first fruits is about those beginning stages turning into something that's all the way grown. That's full grown. It's just the beginning. You're taking your first fruits and you're waving it before the Most High with the full expectation that the Most High is going to bless your harvest and he's going to cause this thing that's just this at its beginning stages of growth, and he's going to take your harvest all the way to the fullness. All right, Proverbs 9:9. What that say?
Give instruction to the wise one, and he is wiser still. Teach a righteous one, and he increases in learning.
That's growth right there. If you already wise, and then somebody gives you some wisdom, you get wiser. You ain't blocking it. Hold on, get that instruction away from me. I'm wise enough. I'm already
He
wise.
said, I'm too wise to even listen.
He said, give instruction to the wise one, and he's wiser. He's more wiser. He's wiser still. You teach a righteous one, and he increases in learning. Hold on, what? You said what? No. That's not how it goes. The righteous one say he grows. This thing is all about growing. It's all about growth. If we do not grow, we're worse than collard greens.
You got a part of iron sharpening?
We're worse than organic kale from the East End Co-op.
Ooh, that's better.
We're worse than that if we just stay the same, if we do not grow. if we do not allow instruction to make us wiser. If we don't increase in our learning. Right? If we just stay in the same, then we're broken. We're dead. If you're not growing, you're the R word. Retarded.
You retarded.
That was the R. That's not politically correct anymore.
He can't say that. He can't say that. That's retarded. That's retarded. You're not growing. You're not growing. Your growth is stunted.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. We talking about spiritually though, right? We are here to take that down payment and flip it. He wants for us to flip the money that he gave us. He gave us the money. He wanted that thing to increase inside of us. Not just sit there. Not just bury it. He wants something back in return. And guess what? If you ain't giving him nothing back in return, he's not going to just be disappointed with you. He done with you.
Done with you, yeah.
He's done with you. You ain't do nothing with this thing I gave you. And it's not even like, well, then that's all you get. You would think like he gave you this thing and you didn't do nothing with it. And then he just say, oh, okay, whatever. Then that's just what you get. He's done with you. You're not even worthy of having the thing that he give you if you don't do nothing with the thing. He's done with you.
Yeah. My grandfather used to always say, when I was young, I used to hear him tell his buddies and his little friends when he used to play checkers, tell me something I don't know. And I might just be smarter than you because I already know a couple things. I used to be like, wow, but now I get the meaning of his cliche because a wise man's not going to stay in a classroom where he's the smartest. He's going to move over to a class where he's the dumbest. That he can learn to become smart again. You understand? That's why I understand that a fool can accept correction, you know. A wise man accept correction, excuse me, but a fool won't. He scoffs at you and I don't want to hear that. Or don't even consider. I mean, I can understand you might buck against someone, but deep down inside, you're going to consider if you're wise. You're going to consider even looking into whatever's being shown to you. You know?
I mean, we gotta understand in the light of first fruits. Everybody gotta grow. Everybody gotta grow. Everybody gotta move up and up and up. And you're never done. Because that spirit that he put in us, the total manifestation of that spirit that's in us is the resurrected body. Until you all the way spirit, you got some growing to do, my friend. Until you all the way spirit. If you still got a little bit of flesh in you, then you still got some growing to do. And so that means you never stop growing.
Never stop.
And so there's always a time when you could just die off. Unless you be like them collard greens over there. They live through the cold weather, through the winter. Because they want to live. We have to want to have life. And we have to strive for life. What do it say over here in I don't even want to talk about this that long. Let's look over at 2 Peter 3:17. 3:17. What does that say?
For it is better.
And 18, sorry. Go ahead.
For it is better if it is the desire of Elohim to suffer.
What you looking at?
Second? Oh, my bad. I'm in 1 Peter. 2 Peter. 3:17. Okay. You then, beloved ones, being forewarned, watch, lest you also fall from your own steadfastness, being led away with the delusion of the lawlessness. But grow in the favor and knowledge of our Master and Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach. To him be the esteem both now and to the day that abides. Amen.
Okay, very good. Very good. So he said, but grow in favor and knowledge of our Master and Savior. Grow in favor and in knowledge. How do we grow in the knowledge of our Master, Yeshua? I don't know how we grow, how we don't say that getting an understanding of the character of the Most High doesn't cause us to grow in knowledge in our Master, Yeshua. If we're growing in the knowledge of the character of the Almighty, then we're growing in the knowledge of our Master and Savior, Yeshua Messiah. That is the thing that we need to be increasing in our hearts and our mind. Is the character of the Most High. How he deals with his people. How he wants for us to deal with them. It's a simple thing, really. It's complex in its vastness, but in terms of thinking about what it actually is, we're thinking about his character, loving kindness, love for one another, love for him, love for our fellow man. And so we have to continue to grow. That's what first fruits causes us to do. That's what we should be thinking about when we think about the morrow after the Sabbath, which is right now, which happens to also be the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, moving forward towards Shavuot, is the idea of growth unto growing to maturity, to full grownness.
I just look at that and it says to watch, so you don't fall from that.
That's active. It's not a passive thing. It's not like a passive thing. You're actually doing it. Make sure, watch, lest you also fall from your own steadfastness. Which it seems like steadfastness is something that it should be steadfast. But our faith is something that is to be maintained. What's this over here? Faith, this steadfastness, right? What's this? I don't know what it is in the Greek. When we think about steadfastness in the Hebrew, that's stability. From a conceptual standpoint, we talking about faith over here, because that in the Hebrew is stability, steadfastness, firmness, right? And so that's something to be maintained, is our firmness. We have to maintain our firmness. We have to make sure that the things that are keeping us grounded are being maintained and fortified. Right? If we got this wall that's up, that's our that protects us from outside penetrations and perpetrators and so on and so forth. We have to make sure that those walls don't become weak over time, right? But we talking about our faith though. We talking about our steadfastness in Messiah, right? Our firmness in Him and in His Word, right? And so these are things that need to be fortified. These are things that we need to feed so that they can grow. Okay, and so this is what this is all about over here. These first fruits. The first fruits is about growth. Okay, it don't help you none just to only have the down payment. It don't help you none just to only have the earnest of the Spirit. It don't help you none to have the pledge of the Ruach inside of you. That thing that He is giving you has to grow and flourish into something that produces fruit. Something that grows. He gave us something. He gave us this fruit bearing seed. He gave us. He gave us this fruit bearing seed that He placed on the inside of us. A spiritual one. That He wants that thing to grow and to grow up and to be strong and to get to the place where it produces fruit. That's what He wants. The first fruits, that's just the beginning. That's just step one to the process. Right? He wants for that process to come to fruition. We think about Yeshua being the first fruits of those that sleep, those that are dead. If we don't follow in the Master's footsteps, don't matter that He was that. He's the first fruits of those that were asleep because there's supposed to be more after that. We got to be that more. And the way that we are that more is that we always continue to grow. We always continue to allow that seed bearing fruit that He planted on the inside of you to grow and flourish. All right, we're going to stop with Philippians 1 and 6. Philippians 1 and 6. That's what we're going to end with right here. Philippians 1, verse 6. What did I say? Hold on. Yeah, just 1 and 6 is fine. Yeah.
Being persuaded of this, he who has begun a work in you shall perfect it until the day of Yeshua Mashiach.
Okay, very good. So we see over there being persuaded, having that steadfastness. Hold on, what is this? Let me just see what this is here. Pythio. Okay, that's not what I thought it was, but still conceptually the same. Persuaded, convinced, confident, steadfast. That's faith. That is some shored up, firm faith. Being persuaded, having faith in this, that He who has begun a work, He gonna make it be full grown. But guess what? He making it full grown with you and your obedience to His will and His way. He didn't turn you into a remote control car where you just sit up here and just outside of your wanting just do what He say. Mm-hmm. Right? The way that this thing is realized is through your obedience to the Most High. And when you do that, now He will indeed bring you to perfection. He will cause you to be a full-grown man over here. Right? If we allow the Ruach inside of us to rule and reign and not our carnal mind. Let that carnal mind be a baby. Let that carnal mind be a baby and let that Ruach HaKodesh be a full-grown man inside of you.
Ain't nothing worse than somebody who is fully mature in evil.
Mature in their evilness. No, it is terrible. It's terrible. And these are the things that we got to sit up here and fight against these people who are fully grown in their wickedness. And unless we're fully grown in righteousness, we lose that fight. We lose that fight every time. He's given us the tools to, at bare minimum, be able to endure this place. I mean, I'm saying bare minimum. We could do more than just get by. Right. But he's given us all that we need, bare minimum, to get by. We could go far above that in him.
Yeah.
But bare minimum, we able to get by only through what he's given us, the Ruach HaKodesh, and us walking according to his spirit. Okay, so that right there is what I want to say about today. I want for all of us to be able to take full advantage of the spirit inside of you. Take full advantage of the Ruach HaKodesh inside of you. Allow for the spirit in you to grow and come to full and realize its full potential, because we don't want to be like those ones who the master allows to die and be burned up because we squandered the thing that he's given to us, which is a most precious thing, by the way. It's the very presence of the Most High inside of us. So we have to cherish this gift that the Most High has given us. Use it to its full potential. Don't just be happy with the first fruits, but allow for those first fruits to grow inside of you and become a fruit-bearing seed that it is inside of you.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
Also, everybody who watched, go to, I ain't going to read it, but read the first chapter of Proverbs, where it was talking about how it gives us the tools. You know, we get these seeds and, you know, dealing with crops and farms and whatever. You got weeds that come in. Mm-hmm. You got all kind of different things that you, like you was mentioning, things that you don't plant. But not knowing that, if you don't, it takes work. So those seeds that you got, you just can't let them plant. Don't think that you don't got to put no effort in.
It's effort.
So
it's so much effort.
The effort is just this tool, is the word. Like, we gotta know the mind of the Most High. Like I said, read that first book of Proverbs. Talks about wisdom and understanding and getting that knowledge, because that's part of growth. That's what you want to water your seed with. So therefore, like, you can look at the weeds as the wickedness. When the wickedness come in, you can pluck it right out with the knowledge that you get. You know, because the wickedness, if you let it go too much, it'll choke out the crop that you want to grow. And then the weeds just take over, and that righteous seed that you wanted to grow is done now. It can't be what it needs to be. But with the word, it gives us that sickle to go in and take out all of these things that we don't want in our crop as soon as they come in. Yeah. And it gets to a point where you'll do it so much that certain things come in your crop and they just turn around and just leave and be like, you know, because you've been tending to it so well, but you're always going to have to tend. You got to get to that point. So yeah. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yes.
I was always told you to learn. We learn as we go. Well, you can learn anything when you go, but the key thing is to learn as you grow when you go. You feel me? Yeah. Because without growth, like you said,
you never stop. Yeah.
Never stop.
Mm-hmm. Hallelujah. Without growth, you dead.
Right. You dead, yeah.
Okay, hallelujah. So we're going to end on that note. We'll say thanks for coming to check out the video. Go ahead and share the video. Like it. If you ain't never subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button.
Right.
All that stuff. So that we can continue to get the word of the Most High out the best that we can.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that being said, we'll say to you, shalom, shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Y'all willing, we shall be back on Shabbat.
They wanted
That was really great.